Introduction to Ecology, Chapter 1. The lesson outcomes for this chapter, the first one, at the end of this chapter, every student should be able to define terminology in ecology, and the second one, explain components in ecology. First, we start with what is ecology. From the Greek, oikos means home, meanwhile logos means to study. So academically, we can define ecology is the scientific study of the interaction between organisms and their environment. So if you look at the definition of the ecology, it includes the keywords of scientific study, meaning ecology incorporates the hypothetical deductive approach by using either observation and experiments to test the hypothetical explanation of any ecological phenomena. So what is hypothetical deductive approach that we utilize in order to investigate not only ecological issues but other scientific study? Hypothetical deductive is a type of investigation where the first one we create a hypothesis or theory. We propose the hypothesis or theory, followed by a series of tests or experiment where the outcomes or the result from the test and experiment we utilize or will be used in order to accept or reject the hypothesis. And another keyword in this definition for the ecology is environment. Environment there, it refers to either biotic factors or abiotic factors. Biotic factors always related to living organisms. Abiotic factors, it refers to non-living. For example, temperatures, light, waters, nutrients, and etc. In general, the key concept of ecology beside the definition for the ecology, the basic ecology normally provides a scientific context for evaluating environmental issues. And the ecological research also range from the adaptation of organisms to the dynamic of ecosystem. The climate and other abiotic factors are important determinant of the biosphere's distribution of organisms. Next, the geographical distribution of terrestrial biomes is based mainly on regional variation in climate. And the next ecosystem, aquatic, doesn't matter either they are freshwater or marine biome, occupy the largest part of the biosphere. All these key concepts of ecology we will discuss later more detail in the next chapters. What is biotic and abiotic factors? Both factors may affect the organism or shape the ecosystem. We start with biotic factors. Biotic factors we can describe as any living organism that may affect another organism or shape the ecosystem. For example, maybe bacteria, fungi, plants, animal or protists. In contrast, abiotic factors are the non-living or maybe physical or chemical factors again that might affect the organism or shape the ecosystem. So example of the abiotic factors are salinity, soil, temperature, light, water, mineral, the pH, humidity, and other physical or chemical factors. Both biotic or abiotic will shape the ecosystem. Okay, we go more detail on a few important abiotic factors. The first one, temperature. We know that environmental temperature is an important factor in the distribution of organism. Okay, for example, there are different types of the species in the tropical rainforest when we compare to the desert because they have different environmental temperature, and this environmental temperature affect the ability of organism to regulate body core temperatures and biological processes, because we know that for any living organism, the proteins, right, a part of their tissues or cell composed of protein, and most of the physiological processes is carried out by proteins such as enzyme. So when we expose the living cell to the temperature somewhere below 0 degrees, for example, the living cell may rupture. Or if we expose the living organism or the protein to the temperature above 45 degrees Celsius, the protein may start to denature and may affect the biological processes. The next abiotic factors, water. We know that water is essential to the life, but its availability varies among habitats. Some habitat lack of water, another maybe too much. But both either in terrestrial environment or marine or maybe freshwater organism, they have their evolution that has been shaped by the requirement for water balance, both in terrestrial and freshwater and marine organism. They have some evolution or adaptation in order to shape by the requirement for water balance. So in freshwater and marine organisms where they live submerged in an aquatic environment, they will face problem of water balance if their intracellular osmolarity doesn't match that of the surrounding water. Sunlight. Sunlight provides the energy that drives ecosystem, even though only photosynthetic organisms use this energy directly, the producer. In terrestrial environment, shading by a forest canopy makes competition for the light in the understory intense. And another example, the importance of the sunlight. In aquatic environment, the intensity and quality of the light may limit the distribution of photosynthetic organism. And in some plant and animal, they are very sensitive toward photo period. So what is photo period? Photo period we can define as the period of time each day during which an organism receive illumination or the light, or in other words is referred to the length, the day length. And this photo period is more reliable indicator for seasonal events such as flowering, time to migrate to another area or region, as well as breeding. For example, in quail, quail is the long day breeders. It compulsory for the quail only to breed during summer, where they mate, laying the egg, incubation, and growth of offspring. We compare to the short day breeders, for example, sheep. Normally, they still able to mate pregnancy during winter, but evolutionary, they deliver and grow the offspring during summer. Why during summer? Because the summer provide a suitable temperature, provide a lot of food compared to winter. And this sunlight actually become a key indicator for certain plant or animal to migrate, to breed, or to produce the flowers, to produce the fruit, etc. Next important abiotic factors, wind. One of the functions of the wind, they capable to amplify the effects of environmental temperature on organism by increase the heat loss via evaporation or convection. And the wind also contribute to the water loss in animal via evaporation and in plant via the mechanism of transpiration. And another impact of wind toward living organisms we can observe in plants, because wind able to inhibit the growth of limbs on the windward side of the trees. And if you read further, wind is very essential for natural processes. Plenty of natural processes can be affected by the wind. Next, rock and soil. So the physical structure of the rock or soil, their pH, their mineral composition of the rocks and soil will limit the distribution of plant as well as animal in terrestrial biomes. Right? For example, from the diagram there, different rock and soil structure, they have different type of species, either plant or animal. Not only species, the type of species, but also their distribution. Meanwhile, in freshwater environment, it may affect the water chemistry, which in turn influence the resident plant and animal. So how the rock and soil affect the water chemistry? Because mineral that we can find in the rock partially dissolve in water. They may change the ionic composition. It might change the pH of water. And another example in marine environment, the structure of the substrate, especially in the intertidal zone and seafloors, will determine the type of organism either that can attach or burrow. Next, periodic disturbance such as fires, hurricane, tornadoes, volcanic eruption can devastate biological communities. And after any disturbance, doesn't matter either they are fires, hurricane, tornadoes, etc., the area will be recolonized and repopulated by survivors. Plant will grow again. After that, the animal will come into that area. And certain disturbance, for example, volcanic eruption, organisms have not acquired evolutionary adaptation because it rarely occurs, maybe 500 years one. So the organism not acquire evolutionary adaptation. But other disturbance, the organism acquire the evolutionary adaptation, such as fires, hurricane, because several biological communities depend on those periodic disturbance in order to maintain their population, such as the impact of fires. All right, after the fire, the new growth area will grow with a new variety of species and have plenty of food. And then it will invite herbivores, insects, and other animals to that particular area. And then when the forest getting older, the food for the animal will be reduced. And after certain time frame, the dense trees stand around the lower plant. They don't get the sunlight, so they are able to survive, die, and pile up the dead wood or litter. So again, the fire doesn't matter. It might be from the line of the man will destroy that area, and the cycle will start again. So that's example of how the disturbance needed by biological communities to maintain for the not maintain but also not only maintain but also for the survival of their species. Next, we'll discuss on the hierarchy level of subfield of ecology. The hierarchy started with organism. What is organism? Individual living thing. Organism will form the population. What is population? Many organisms of one species living in one area we classify as a population. Later, population become community. Many different population living in one particular area we classify as a community. After community, ecosystem. A community with its non-living environment that we call as a ecosystem. And the last one, biosphere. All the ecosystem make up to become biosphere. So again, we go a little bit detail on organismal ecology. Organismal ecology is a study that concerns with the behavior, physiological, and morphological ways in which individual organisms meet the challenge posed by their abiotic environment. Normally, the scientists or the ecologists study about the organismal ecology. They focus on the distribution of organism, and this distribution of the organism is limited by the abiotic condition that they can tolerate. Doesn't matter either they are temperatures, maybe the pH, or maybe the salinity. Next, population ecology. Population we can define as a group of individuals in a particular geographic area that belong to the same species. For example, population of Malayan tigers, Panthera tigris, population of Borneo orangutan, Pongo pygmaeus, etc. And the population ecology itself we can define as the study of the mechanisms responsible for the changes in the distribution and abundance of individuals within a population over space and time. Community ecology. What is community? Community is an assemblage of population of different species that interact and inhabit a particular area. For example, community of savanna. It includes population of giraffe, population of antelope, population of lion, population of acacia trees, etc. And in community ecology, is we can define as the study of interaction or relation between species living in a particular area. Ecosystem. What is ecosystem? Ecosystem include all the organisms, which is multiple community in a given area, as well as their abiotic factor with which they interact. For example, ecosystem of mangrove. It includes community of aquatic organism, community of the fish, crab, and other invertebrate. And it also includes community of birds, community of monkey, which interact with abiotic factors. And the ecologists in the field of ecosystem ecology, they focus on the movement of energy and elements from one organism to another within a given area. Landscape ecology. Landscape ecology we can define as the study of the pattern and interaction between ecosystem and the way interaction affect ecological processes within a region of interest. So there are different kind of landscape. For example, urbanizing forest, desert, wetland, grassland, and the community from this different landscape may interact. For example, the effect or impact of human toward land use and human modification on natural landscape for the purpose of agriculture. We always heard about the conflict between human and wildlife. Let's say, for example, elephant in the forest, all right, they attack the agriculture area. That one example, a few example of the landscape ecology, interaction between ecosystem. The last one, biosphere. What is a biosphere? Biosphere we can define as the entire portion of the earth that is inhabited by life, or the sum of all the earth communities and ecosystem. But never confuse with another term, biomes. Biome is a major communities of organisms that have a characteristic appearance and are distributed over a wide land area defined largely by regional variation in climate. That are two different things, biosphere and biomes. So for this first chapter, you may get more information by refer to any biological textbook. And these are two recommended biology textbook by Campbell as well as by Raven. Thank you. End of chapter 1.